Imagine being able to stand in the very synagogue where Jesus performed miraculous healings and spoke with great authority. And imagine just steps away entering the house where Jesus healed Peter's mother-in-law. In this episode, we're going to visit the Synagogue of Capernaum.
Welcome to Faith Affirming Findings, a podcast dedicated to sharing with you
the incredible discoveries from the field of biblical archaeology.
These findings will strengthen your faith, affirm the historicity of Scripture, and provide you with unique insights into the culture and background of the Bible.
Now, here is your host, Associate Professor of Bible Exposition at Dallas Theological Seminary,
Dr. Paul Weaver.
In 1866, Charles Wilson identified the ancient remains of this site to be biblical Capernaum. In 1905, a beautiful limestone synagogue began to be uncovered, but unfortunately, these excavation efforts were interrupted by the outbreak of World War I. In 1921, excavations resumed under the leadership of Orfali, a Franciscan archaeologist. Orfali successfully uncovered the main hall of the synagogue, but his works were tragically cut short by an automobile accident. Despite this loss, his efforts laid the foundation for future discoveries at this site. The limestone synagogue was at first believed to be the very place where Jesus preached and healed. But over 2,000 coins were found beneath the floor of the synagogue, and all of them dated later than the 1st century. This confirmed that the limestone synagogue was built after Jesus' time. But then, in 1968, a remarkable discovery was made. A basalt foundation was discovered directly beneath the limestone synagogue. The walls of this foundation were 4 feet thick, much thicker than any residential structure. And in 1981, archaeologists confirmed the basalt foundation was the foundation of a 1st century synagogue, dating to the time of Jesus. There are 4 lines of compelling evidence that support the identification of this basalt structure as a 1st century synagogue. First, it was common practice for new synagogues to be built directly on the foundations of earlier ones, preserving the sacred location. Second, the architectural plan of the later limestone synagogue closely follows the layout of the basalt structure beneath it, indicating continuity of purpose and function. Third, the floor plan and construction style of the earlier building strongly resemble other 1st century synagogues discovered at sites such as the Herodium, Magdala, and Masada. Fourth, and perhaps most strikingly, a 4th century pilgrim named Agaria, also known as Atheria, traveled through the Holy Land between AD 381 and 384. After describing her visit to the site she identified as the house of Peter, she describes a nearby synagogue. And I quote, "There also is the synagogue where the Lord cured a man possessed by the devil." This written testimony provides early traditional support that the site was recognized even in antiquity as the location of the synagogue where Jesus ministered. The Gospels record this remarkable event in Mark chapter 1 and Luke chapter 4. Jesus entered the synagogue at Capernaum on the Sabbath and began to teach. Mark chapter 1 verse 22 tells us, "They were amazed at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one having authority and not as the scribes." While there, a man possessed by an unclean spirit cried out, "What do you have to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be quiet and come out of him." The unclean spirit convulsed the man and came out with a loud cry. The crowd was astonished and began asking, "What is this? A new teaching with authority? He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." Following on the heels of this miracle, Mark chapter 1 verse 29 tells us, "And immediately after they left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John there. Now Simon's mother-in-law was lying sick with a fever. Jesus raised her up, taking her by the hand, and the fever left her, and she waited on them. Luke's account agrees. He stood over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her, and she immediately got up and began to serve them. The narrative, from the synagogue to the house, is not only theologically rich, it is geographically precise. Just as the Gospels imply, Peter's house was discovered nearby, just 90 feet from the synagogue. The Synagogue of Capernaum was central to Jesus' public ministry. If the Gospels are historically reliable, and they are, we would expect to find a first-century synagogue in Capernaum, and we have. And we'd expect Peter's house to be near that synagogue, and it is. This isn't fiction. This isn't legend. This is verifiable history. The first-century Synagogue of Capernaum and its proximity to Peter's house confirms the Gospel's account in both geography and in precise details. If you found this discovery faith-affirming, and I hope you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more episodes just like this one. And don't forget to get a copy of my upcoming book, Faith Affirming Findings, which discusses this discovery and 49 other incredible discoveries in greater detail. It is set to be released at the beginning of 2026. And that is your Faith Affirming Finding of the Week.
Faith Affirming Findings podcast is a listener-supported podcast devoted to affirming your faith in the reliability of Scripture and illuminating your understanding of Scripture.
If you would like to help sponsor the Faith Affirming Finding podcast,
You can make a tax-deductible donation of any amount, large or small,
at faithaffirmingfindings.com. That's faithaffirmingfindings.com and click on the Give tab.
We hope you'll join us again next week for another exciting Faith Affirming Finding.